Episode 4 Blu Rain. He had carried her back to the fire and covered her up. She was no older than him and she was naked. He had never seen a naked girl, so before covering her could not help pausing to look. It made him feel dirty in some way, but she was a beauty, he thought. Her hair was a white blonde with a kind of red glow to it, almost a halo. No taller than him, but did not have the build of anyone who grew up on a farm. Her hands were not the hands of someone who worked. Bright Eyes sat watching her. Most likely she was the only other person he had ever seen, him being the first. He could not tell what he thought of her, but he was sure she made him uneasy right now. He decided it was time for him to check on the water. It should be dropping by now, he thought. He signed to Bright Eyes to stay and watch her as he got up. The bird cooed in answer as he walked away. He was not gone long. The water was indeed retreating, but not as fast as he had hoped. It would still be hours before they could again reach the fresh air. He decided to make some tea and cook a little hop about meat. Bright Eyes perked up when he saw him, remove the pack of meat. He smiled to himself, knowing that the bird loved the raw meat, but he also knew that it needed to eat plants more so than meat, but there was none in here. He gave him a strip of it and then put a couple on a flat rock by the pan of water that was next to the fire. He pushed red coals around it, knowing it would only be minutes before it would be ready. He had no clue if it was day or night, but felt it was day. He threw some black root tea into the water and some green pepper onto the meat along with a little pink salt. He may be on the hunt, but always carried stuff to make food taste better. He had learned to cook when he was young. Mother had seen to that. Bright Eyes began to clean his feathers. He had grown to like the clicking, which meant the bird was at ease. He must have decided that the girl was not a threat to them, but Cat was not so sure, having no clue about who she was. He looked back at her. She was awake, the blanket pulled up to her chin, and stared with big blue eyes at Bright Eyes as if she had never seen a bird before. He acted as if he had not noticed she was awake and turned over the strips of meat and seasoned the other side. He filled a cup with the tea and held it out to her. After a moment she slowly reached out for it. He cleared his throat and said, "It's hot, be careful." He got up and went to one of the packs and removed a pair of pants and a shirt. He placed them on a rock next to her and said, "Here, they may be a little big but should do you fine." She stood and dropped the blanket and he almost tripped trying to turn around, but not before he got a good look. Wow, he thought she was very pretty and not shy. After a moment, in a soft voice, he thought should have come from an angel, "Okay, you can turn around." She was standing there smiling at him. She seemed amused that he had turned away. She looked back at Bright Eyes and asked, "Is that warbird yours?" As she sat back down. Warbird, he thought, what was that about? He wondered. "He's my friend. We know nothing of war anywhere," was all he could think of saying. "That sure smells good." She pointed at the cooking meat as she sipped her tea. He had forgotten about the meal and flipped the meat over again. From his pack, he pulled out some honey cake and 2 small bowls. He never thought he would be making dinner for anyone, but it was better than eating alone. As he handed her a bowl he said, "Sorry, I have no forks." She just smiled as she took it. "It's not much," he added as he sat and began to eat. He noticed that she kept looking at Bright Eyes as if she did not trust him. She had called him a warbird. They finished the meal without saying any more, and that was hard for him. He had so many questions, but she seemed to act as if this was an everyday thing. He was sure she was from an upper-class family or a maid to one and had never really worked a day in her life. He found it hard not to stare at her. He had never met a girl that looked the way she did. Most he had were farm-raised and some were even stronger than he was. She didn't look frail, just not someone who worked very hard. He could tell she was smart just by the way she looked at him. He broke the silence. "My name is Shadow Cat and I'm from Prism." He pointed at the bird, "That is Bright Eyes," who cooed at the sound of his name. She smiled at the sound of his name. "Nice strong name you have." "My name is Blu Rain, third lady in sitting to the Archmage of Rain," she said as if it should mean something to him. "I thank you for your help." He had no clue of what she had said, nor had ever heard of an archmage or what one was, but he did not ask. Her smile made it hard for him to think. She was just so damn pretty, and he thought she knew what effect it was having on him and was enjoying it. "Where are you from?" he asked. She never stopped smiling. "I'm from a city called Benbala, in a place you may know as Agartha." What? He thought. Agartha was the place of fairy tales, where warriors would fight demons and dragons. Parents would tell the children tales to keep them close to home at night. Now she was claiming to be from there. She was amused by the look on his face, he could tell. She held out her cup. "Any more tea?" she asked. He took her cup and poured the rest of it in and handed it back. "I really don't care where you're from, but you expect me to believe you're from a fairy tale land of magic and dragons." "Yes, there are dragons, and of course, there's magic. Just imagine a world with no magic," she laughed. She stopped when she saw the look on his face. "Really, I'm from Agartha. The world is not what you have been told. There is far more to it than your little town of Prism." She spoke as if she knew the place. "The whole world that you know is south of the Thunder Mountains. Have you ever heard of anyone from the north?" He had to admit that he knew of only a few that would say they had even come this far north, let alone coming from north of the mountains. He shook his head. She made a found. "There are many things that the people of the south know little or nothing about, and one is the fact that north of the Thunders is the land of Agartha, and magic is as real as your bird there." She pointed at Bright Eyes. "But none of you know that it is or how to use it." She held out her palm and a soft light appeared floating just above it.